If you would please introduce yourself, tell us your name and why you're here at the Donkey Symposium.
Oh man, my name's Megan Hensley, and I'm here at the Donkey Welfare Symposium because, first of all, I love donkeys, and also I'm a donkey farrier. I've been working with donkeys, providing them hoof care for the last 13 years, and just in the last 2 years, I became a donkey farrier specialist.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
So is that you're also speaking here, correct?
Oh, yes. I forgot, yes. And so last year was my first year, and then they asked me if I would consider speaking this year, and then I said yes.
Okay, what were the talks that you gave?
Okay, the first talk I gave for the veterinary track was rebuilding or restoring abnormal hooves. So we were talking a little bit about some of the pathologies and different diseases that the hoof might experience, and then very commonly distortion. The hooves will get distorted because they're not being trimmed frequently enough, or maybe they've been in a neglect situation or rescued or something like that.
Is that funny thing where that goes up in the
yeah.
front like a shoe? Like a
yeah, it
shoe?
looks like commonly it does that, what we call the slipper look. I did have a video of one of the donkeys who was experiencing that on his hind hooves, and then there's a few different things that they can have. So we just talked about how we can help them grow healthier, better hooves.
Is there a difference in a donkey and a horse pedicure, so to speak?
A little bit, but not a whole lot. But the hoof structure is just a little bit different than a horse, so you are addressing it a little bit differently. But there's a lot of the same principles.
Are they, now one of them is well, not so much here in this country, but one of them is used more for hauling, and the other one is used as a riding animal, not exclusively, but a little bit more, correct?
Oh, yeah.
So is there a different shape that needs to happen on the hoof?
Well, the donkey hoof is already in a little bit of a different shape. It's shaped more like a U. Their frog sits further back, and inside the hoof capsule, they actually have a bigger digital cushion, which is like this fatty, fibrous tissue that's like a cushion, and then we have these lateral cartilages that come around to the bone, and they have a bigger lateral cartilage, bigger digital cushion, which then reflects in the hoof structure. You'll see the frog is bigger, sticks back, and they have, horses' hooves are flexible too, but a donkey's hoof can really flex, and that's because they have so much more the lateral cartilage and the digital cushion, which is that softer, it's not really softer, it is softer, but it's more fibrous, flexible material.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Interesting. Well, my horse experience is pretty limited.
Okay.
It was a long time ago, but I do remember I felt really badly about taking a hoof pick to the underside of the hoof because I'm thinking, okay, that looks so sensitive. Is the bottom of a donkey's hoof, is that very sensitive or what?
No, not if it's healthy, but they can experience sensitivity if they have thrush or an infection in the frog or in that area of their hoof. But no, if the donkey's hoof is really healthy, I mean, they could scoot and just run across a rocky desert and be totally fine. They're very sure-footed and can do a lot.
So if a donkey runs around in the desert all the time, do the hooves naturally stay down? Or
They do. They do.
Okay.
That's how they self-trim. And so when I look at what I'm thinking about for a healthy donkey foot, I like to look at the wild donkey and say, there's going to be some that aren't totally ideal, but for the most part, the wild donkey hoof is a really good example of what the domesticated donkey's hoof should look like.
My chickens do that too. They constantly scratch in the dirt,
Okay.
and they stay naturally really, really low. They stay at a good length, and they take care of themselves. But it's only when we stick them on something that's not necessarily natural that we have to constantly maintain, right?
Yep, and that's why farriers are around, really, because our domesticated donkeys and horses aren't getting as much movement over the varied terrain that they need. And then also when we bring them into domestication, sometimes we're not feeding them as well as they should, and that can affect their hoof quality too. So a lot of the times I'm trying to get people to implement a more a diet that where we're mimicking what they would be eating if they were wild.
So the other thing that occurs to me is if you have a donkey that's used to running around across hundreds of miles or acres or whatever might choose, and yet you put them in a stall and they're standing in, even if it's pretty clean, it's sometimes manure and things like that. How does that contribute to hoof issues? Because that is something that's going to be a little material that's probably not as good for them as running around on the dirt and getting rid of it, correct?
No, yeah, you're super correct. How much did you think about that before you wanted to ask me that question? I'm just really curious.
Because it was not very structured very well.
No, it's excellent. What I'm trying to get at is that, like, sometimes people who've had donkeys or horses for a long time, they're just so used to keeping them confined. Oh, well, we always kept our horses in stalls, or we always kept them in these pens. And so these types of thoughts that you just had doesn't cross their mind. That was a brilliant thought. It's like,
thank you.
It makes,
that's my one for the year.
Yeah, no, it makes sense, right? But a lot of the times, the only people who ask me that are people that, like, you don't have a horse, right? That you keep at home, right? And
chickens is it?
Yeah, the chickens. So you're kind of going, wow, they're designed to move, and then what happens when they go into that box? And then,
manure on chickens is high in nitrogen. I'm assuming that donkeys are like horses, and there's a little bit of urea that sits in those stalls as well.
No matter how clean you keep those stalls, they are standing in feces and urine and ammonia, and it's not good for their hooves. It can degrade them over time, and it makes it way harder to keep them healthy, and they don't get to move around like they were designed to do. And so structures in the hoof can actually atrophy from not being stimulated and used. So I love that, because that was really cool. You put, a lot of times non-horse people put stuff together.
Now leave
like
me
that.
to talk manure. That's my thing.
And I love that your little chickens are getting out and scratching their little nails down.
Oh, yes, they are.
Because what are you allowing them to be more like chickens?
They have a 9x15 coop, and then they get out every day, and so they go scratching.
And so they get to go do whatever chickens like to do.
Things,
Isn't that cool? That's what they need.
We think so.
Yeah.
So tell me what you do to give a pedicure to a donkey, step by step.
Oh, step by step. Well, depending on the donkey, I might have to sweet talk him first and be like, all right, you little scallywag, like, you've been super naughty, and
because some of them have personalities that are not necessarily going to enjoy a pedicure quite so much as the others.
Not right off the bat, depending on how much handling they've had, depending on their history. Some of my favorite donkeys to work with are babies, because I'm putting the first trim on them, and then they're just growing up, becoming educated and learning as they go. But when I'm working with a donkey that may have not had as great of an experience, or maybe they haven't been handled as much, we have to teach them that it's safe, that it's okay to take their legs and hold them and do that kind of stuff. So step by step. So let's see, we're gonna use a donkey that's used to being trimmed. So I'm just gonna, a lot of the times they don't wear their halter with me if I've been working with them for a long time, so I don't necessarily halter them. So I just go out and I like to give them a hug and play with their ears and scratch their butt. And if you've ever seen a little donkey, if you scratch by their butt, their little tail goes up and they're just like, oh, this feels so good. So I kind of just am talking to them. I'm like, hey, we're gonna hang out for a little bit, and I'm here to help take care of you, and tell them how much I enjoy them. And then I just get to picking up a foot. I just run my arm down and pick up a foot, and then I'm gonna clean out any debris or dirt and mud that's packed in there. Then I'm gonna take a look at it, and I usually need to trim the hoof wall down, and then I need to trim the frog down, and then I might bevel the walls. And it's pretty quick and easy if they're on a good schedule. Now, if they're with a crazy distorted hoof or something, then I might have some more work, but it's actually, trim the wall down, trim the frog down, clean out around the sides, and then that's it.
That's it.
It sounds really simple.
It does. Why doesn't everybody do this?
Well, I teach people how to do it, and I've taught my clients how to do it, like maintain in between my visits.
Well, okay, so
So-
I'm going to go back to the chickens.
Okay.
The chickens are a little scary sometimes because birds have a quick in the middle of their toe. Do donkeys have a quick?
They don't have a quick like dogs. No, their bony structure is in there and we know where it's at, but we can get to sensitive structure, but it's not like you're not just going to hit a quick and a bunch of blood's just going to pour out. I mean, I guess you'd have to really get in there and cut them really short to draw a lot of blood. So it's not like a quick, no.
Okay.
But there is sensitive corium that you could damage if you went too far.
Okay. Do you ever put shoes on a donkey? And if so, why or why not?
Okay. I don't. I am a traditionally trained farrier, so I do have a steel shoeing background, and I did that for quite a while in the beginning, and then I moved into the natural hoof care world probably about 2010, 11-ish. So if a donkey needed hoof protection, I would be using an alternative to steel, like a composite or a rubber shoe or a hoof boot. So
We've
yeah.
seen those. We did an interview with a gal that's endurance rider, and she
Yes.
rode an Aquateki, and the only time she ever put the hoof boot on it
Yeah.
is when they ran out and did the 100-mile things. Other than that, they just did just fine.
Yes,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I bet you one thing that really contributes to like whether or not your horse could be barefoot like that is their diet and lifestyle. I bet that horse's diet is really dialed in, and I bet it's free to roam and move around over varied terrain, and I bet it gets trimmed like it should and all that.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I guarantee that horse is an athlete, and
Yes.
she maintains that very carefully.
Yeah,
So yes,
and that
definitely.
really plays a role in her horse being able to be on his own hooves like that, which every horse should really be able to be like that, but we get in their way with some of our keeping practices.
Yeah. So are hooves like fingernails in that they're kind of they're an indicator of the health of an animal?
Yes, I would say that hooves can most definitely reflect the overall health of an animal. When I get to, coming in to improve hooves, there's a lot of changes that are going to happen that are going to help the animal's whole body.
Then the gait and the walk, and then
Oh,
the
yeah,
cadence,
absolutely.
and then I'm sure it's just like people. If you wear a pair of bad shoes, pretty soon you're going to start to
Yeah.
feel it. Yeah. So if you had most of your clients and most of what you see, maintenance or a massive fix, which do you see more often in your practice, and which is more common in the donkey world in general?
Oh, okay. So I have a lot of clients, so I do a lot of maintenance with them, but I'm also called in because I'm now made this my specialty. I have been seeing critters that are outside of my realm, and I go and help out and then get them set up with another farrier. So I definitely do more maintenance, but when it is the fix them up type things, they're usually like pretty interesting, pretty in-depth. Like I've worked with Dr. Davis where we've had to anesthetize the donkeys, which we just lay them out completely and do major hoof rehab on them. I've used hand saws to like take off massive amounts of growth, and those are sad for the donkey to have ended up that way, but by the time they're in our hands, we're getting them on the road to recovery, so then it can be a really exciting thing. So, but probably mostly maintenance, and then on that side, still a good amount, but that major fix them up.
Well,
Yeah.
You described getting the saw out.
Yeah.
And that just is an amazing amount of confidence you need to have. How did you learn how to do this?
Well, the first time I saw the hoof, I'd never done it before, so I just got in there and started. Because you talked about them do they have a quick? No, they don't. So when I see a really long hoof like that, then I know I've got at least this much. So I'll say, I could go this far, and then I usually back up a little bit. So I think I'm going to go this far, and then I come back a little bit. Give myself, you don't want to go overboard, but it's just good to be conservative like that, to think, okay, I can go here, but I'm going to go here. So then, for that first time that I used a handsaw, I just had to trust that I knew what was that I know a hoof and I know that I can take that, type thing, and then you just gotta kind of go for it.
So how'd you learn that? What, 20 years ago? How did you learn how to do that? When
13,
you were little,
13, almost 14 years ago, I took an apprenticeship with a local farrier because I wanted to be a packer with the Forest Service, and they wanted you to have some hoof care experience. So I took this apprenticeship, ended up being like a year long with a local farrier where I live in Humboldt, and then he was moving away, and he said, "Do you want my business?" And I'd already had a relationship with the clients and the animals, and so in that moment, I chose the business over going to work for the Forest Service. And so and then I graduated after that. I went to horseshoeing school for 2 months, 10 weeks, and then I came home and I just ran my own business. It's really fun. I love it. You just get to kind of do whatever you want,
So if you came in with packer experience, now that explains a little bit to me, because that's one of the last, I say the last frontiers, but you kind of are out there in the middle of nowhere. Please explain to the average Joe what a packer
Okay,
does.
so I wasn't actually a packer. I was on a backcountry trail crew building trail, dry stone masonry, trail maintenance, restoration, natural resources management, basically, in the backcountry. And but the packers brought in all our stuff because we were in the middle of nowhere. So packers run a mule string, and the mules carry in the food, the letters, any amenities and things that you need out there, because we set up a base camp. Like, we were 8-10 miles into the wilderness, and the mules brought everything in for us. That's how that works.
This may seem like a weird question.
Okay.
But I can't stop straightening these shelves when I go in a store. I have to, like, if I see things, I have to straighten the cans and things. Do you find yourself doing that same thing when you see bad hoofs on a donkey where you want to just go stand
Yeah, and I do, and I see it a lot in pictures online. I'll be seeing people's hooves and stuff, and yes, I do want to. So and I've been bad before. I'll be like, why do those hooves look so bad? And I really probably shouldn't talk like that, and so I'm getting better about it. So usually I try to reach out and be like, hey, how did your farrier get along with your donkey? Or because maybe the other thing about I can't judge my colleagues' work hard either, because you don't know how they were feeling. You don't know what the animal was going through. They might be doing the best that they could do. Maybe that's a really hard donkey to trim. It jumps all over the place, and they're just in there trying to do their best. Or maybe they don't fully know. Or it could be that the owner won't stay on a schedule like they need to do that's appropriate for that animal to make sure that its hooves stay, super nice. So there could be a lot of different factors. But yes, I also watch the horses in the parades and stuff and see them clomping around in their shoes and all the cracked walls, and it can just,
just enjoy the parade.
Yeah. No, anytime a horse goes by, I'm like, I see more horses, running around, but with the donkeys too, absolutely. You can't not, when it's what you do all the time.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Before we go,
you guys are awesome.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
If you would tell the listener, please, how do we get in touch with you? Do you have an Instagram account?
I do. I've got Instagram. I got Facebook. So I'm at Holistic Hooves, all one word, and that's how you can find me on Facebook and Instagram. I also have a Facebook group called Donkey Hoof Care, and then my website is just launching. It's donkeyfarrier.com. So you can go there, and I'll sign up for my newsletter, and then I'm working on a training, several little training series that are going to be digital online courses, and then there's going to be a bunch of free resources as well, all about donkey care and hoof care.
Wonderful. Well, I have to say, my husband and I were voting after your stint with the band last night on the singingfarrier.com.
On the Singing Farrier, yeah, that was so fun. I'm so glad you guys showed up. This has been really nice.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.